PY Sessions. I'm your host, Auntie Hair Coach. So, according to recent estimates, approximately 1.4 million adults in the U.S. identify as transgender. The term transgender refers to individuals whose gender identity differs from the sex they were assigned at birth and who do not adhere to culturally defined or socially constructed classifications of gender. Hair is something that's easily controlled compared to hormone replacement or gender-affirming surgery, and a recent survey revealed that 60% of LGBTQ plus individuals change their hair when they, and I'm using air quotes, come out of the closet. Trans and non-binary people have always heavily influenced and been a force behind the scenes of the beauty industry. We see it in fashion, slang, music, pop culture. However, more and more, we're starting to see mainstream representation of trans people, and they're being recognized and finally compensated for their contributions. This episode and subsequent episodes regarding gender and the beauty binary is attempting to push the cosmetology industry specifically away from toxic extremes to create safer, non-judgmental, inclusive space for non-binary people. So to help us out with the starting point to the conversation, Marquise Reed has entered the chat. Welcome, Marquise.
What's up?
So before we get started, I want to be clear for my audience that the LBGTQ plus community, like all communities, are nuanced, and we're not painting all trans people in a corner. More like we're just attempting to introduce some general guidelines for engaging non-binary folks in the salon or barbershop. So, Marquise, thank you for joining me today.
No problem. It's my pleasure.
Tell my audience, so just for the record, my audience is hairstylists and people who maybe are thinking about becoming hairstylists. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Marquise Reed. I'm 33. Currently living in Atlanta. And I believe that I started my transition in 2014.
Okay. All right. That was a crazy year to be transitioning. 2014 was crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about what that looks like for you specifically. So you are trans female to male. And I know the beauty industry has some pretty, I think the word when I was doing my research is it cis-normative ideas of what beauty looks like. So when you were deciding to make your transition, I guess my first question is, what does that look like for you? Like, what is being a man? What does that look like to you?
I think it was more just letting things that I had on the inside come out. Previously to identifying as FTM, a transgender guy, I was a lesbian instead. So I already dressed pretty masculine and things like that. But I think that obviously the first thing that I want to do is shave my head, right? Because most guys, they have low haircuts, waves, whatever, So as soon as I got out of the household, that's when I did go ahead and take that step and just cut my hair off. I went with the X curl first, but yeah.
Okay. Do you remember like what ideas you had when you were growing up, specifically around beauty and like looking attractive? Do you remember like what your ideas were where that was concerned?
I would say, I was always chunky, so, obviously a smaller, nicer physique, some abs, and just, in reference to, like, my hair, it really just depends. I think that having locks, I've never had any other style where it's just like, I love my hair. So, it's just different transitions, I think that, hair is versatile, so sometimes the style that you're rocking, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, you can just go with whatever. But that's what I really do love about my hair.
Okay. Do you remember going to the salon as a child?
I remember going to the barber shop as a child.
Okay.
I went with my dad. Me and my sister, we went a lot with our dad, and my mom. She, obviously didn't want to have her two little girls getting lined up, but we wanted to be lined up and looking crispy like the guys, and stuff. It started with her just allowing us to get lined up in the back because that's what ladies would do, or the norm for ladies at that time would just get lined up in the back. So, but our dad, he would let us get the whole, you dig, and we like the ice picks at the time, it came on down the sideburns and everything. So, and that was just, helping to go with the role of being a lesbian stud at the time, being lined up and, having those different type of features. So, yeah.
Do you remember how old you were when you?
I would say after or around 8. Yeah.
Okay. And do you remember what your experience was like in the barbershop specifically? Like, were the barbers, were they accepting of that? Was it no big deal when you came in as, a little girl wanting to be crispy and lined up?
Yeah.
Was there any?
Yeah, I never really had any issue. I felt like everything was always fine. No one, acted a certain type of way or, gave us the feeling that they may have been uncomfortable or anything like that. It was just the barbershop has always been a very welcoming environment as far as, if you are a woman or a male. The barbershops that I've gone to anyway. So.
Gotcha. Okay. So because you're new to Atlanta, when you are looking, so you move to a new city and you're looking for a place to go and get your hair done, how do you go about searching for a place? And is there anything in specific that you're looking for to choose, like where you're going to go get your hair done?
Yeah, so I mean, oftentimes because I am a part of the LGBT community, I do look for places in general that are, friendly within those guidelines. So before I moved here, I joined a Facebook group. Well, there's lots of support groups, right? So there's a Facebook group. It's called like Atlanta Friends and Allies or something like that. And it's just a place that I go often to reach out and say, hey, is there an LGBT friendly place for this or that? So, yeah, it does sometimes matter because you want to just have people that are considerate, and that also possibly have experience with dealing with people who are like you.
Yeah. When you say that you're looking for people to be considerate, what can you be more specific when you are talking to a beauty professional? What things can they say and or do that would be considered being considerate in that space?
So the biggest thing is that, so for me personally, I live what's called like a stealth life. I don't normally just go around and say, hey, I'm Marquise, I'm transgender, I'm not what we call like a visible trans person, there are people that you might go down their page and you'll see all over that they're trans, but that's not who I am. And so it just matters to me sometimes the person that I'm dealing with, whether or not I tell them that I'm transgender. So sometimes you have people maybe towards the beginning of their transition where they're still a little bit in between. I just had my pap surgery, but previously I still did have my breast. And that's a dead giveaway, right? So you may see someone who has facial hair like myself, but then you may see, breasts. And that can be kind of confusing for people. And then, someone may misgender you and call you ma'am. And then you're left feeling kind of, like, well, I'm never going to go back to that person, So my rule of thumb that I try to tell people, especially when dealing with transgender people, is if you see someone attempting to present as a woman, right? So if they have fingernail polish, or maybe a nice scarf, feminine clothes, but maybe they do have a little bit of facial hair that they may be trying to get rid of or something like that, then you should address them as a woman. If you see someone like myself, who maybe previously you may have seen breasts, but you see that I have facial hair, it's clear that I'm trying to present as a man, so you want to go ahead and address me as a man. So those are the type of things that I mean when I say just being considerate. And if you don't know, you can ask. At the end of the day, I would much rather someone ask me because they're unsure rather than to misgender me, because that can turn into a deep downward, spiral of depression, and you never want to make anybody feel like that. So.
Right. And that was actually a question that I had, is whether or not it's appropriate to ask for someone's pronouns. Like, that's not awkward to ask if you're unsure.
So I'll be honest, it's gonna depend on the person. There's really no way of knowing. Some people are gonna be offended. You obviously don't want to do it in a large setting where there's other people around. Hey, what do you want me to call you? That's obviously rude. But maybe pull them to the side and say, hey, I was wondering, is it okay that I call you she or he or they or there, depending on if they're non-binary, things like that. So. Just maybe do it in a quiet setting and try not to make it like an awkward conversation, just a normal conversation.
That makes sense. Thank you for that. Okay. The beauty industry, right now in the beauty industry, there's this huge conversation being had right now around pricing. And in the past, I've been a hairstylist for a lot of years, over 20 years, we'll say that. And so in the past, it was common for hair pricing to be centered around gender. So a woman's haircut is this, and a man's haircut is that. Do you have any thoughts around gendered pricing? And if not gendered pricing, do you have any suggestions for ways that pricing can be done that is inclusive?
I don't really feel any certain type of way about gender pricing because, I'm a business owner as well. So I feel like you should charge for your talent, whether you're, cutting a male or a female or doing a male or a female's hair. Your pricing is going to be up to you, so I know, like you said previously, it may have been $10 for a female cut, $20 for a male cut, or something like that, and that's just the gender norms that have kind of played out within the shops and the salons over the years. So you do have some people that are breaking those norms, and it's just like, hey, if this is the cut that you want, this is the price, if this is the style that you want, this is the price. And some people still do give that discount to, the women, so I feel like, it's up to the hairstylist or the barber or whomever, I would say at the end of the day, charge your worth, so that's literally it at the end of the day for me, in my opinion.
Yeah. I have moved away from gendered pricing, and I'm doing more of an hourly.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless of gender, if you take up an hour of my time, it costs this. If you know what I mean? Because I'm just trying to remove gender from it, period. So it just seems kind of outdated.
Yeah.
But I was just curious if you had any thoughts on how to make that a more comfortable experience. What about, so my salon is listed on a website called Strands for Trans. So I do have trans people come into the salon more often than I ever have. And maybe it's always been a thing and I'm just more aware of it now. That's very possible. But now, because of this website, people are coming in and saying, I found you on Strands for Trans. So now I'm aware that I'm dealing with someone who is trans. When someone who's trans comes into the salon, what conversations are, like, is it appropriate to discuss their transition? Should we wait for if they want to discuss it, they'll bring it up? And we should be talking about, TV shows and books and movies and music,
Right. So
talk to me about those conversations.
You want to have general conversation like any other customer, right? If a cis or biogendered female comes in, you're not gonna talk about her gender with her, right? So you don't want to do that with a transgender person. If they do bring it up, then yeah, by all means, engage in the conversation. But you don't want to make someone feel awkward. So that's kind of the line between you'll have some visible trans people, and when I say visible, I don't mean like physically visible, but I mean like within the community. You may scroll down on their page and see transgender flags. They'll be, out at Pride wearing, Pride things and stuff like that. And then again, you have people like me who are stealth. I just live my life every day. If I'm asked, I may tell, I may not tell. It just depends on the certain situation. So for someone like me, if I came into your shop and you were like, "Hey, are you transgender?" and tell me about I would kind of be like, no,
that's a weird ass question.
So just probably engage in normal conversation, movies, books, that type of deal. And if they go towards the conversation of being transgender or identity or just anything along those guidelines, then by all means go ahead and maybe ask some questions that you may be interested in.
Gotcha. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay. What additional advice, just thinking about the experiences that you've had in salons and barbershops, what additional advice would you have for a hairstylist or barber who wants to go beyond performative things like just hanging a rainbow flag in the window during Pride? If I want to create a safe, inclusive environment, what are some steps that I can take so that I know that if a non-binary, trans, anyone of the LBGTQ community walks into the salon, what are some steps that I can take to make sure that it's a safe environment for them?
Right. So I think the main thing is that you're putting yourself out there, because word of mouth is really a big thing within the transgender community. It's those small Facebook groups or those Reddit groups, that I can go to and say, hey, where can I get my hair done? And someone might say, hey, I got my hair done over here at this shop. She was really nice. I didn't feel uncomfortable or anything like that. So just making sure that you're actually getting to customers and maybe asking those transgender people or LGBT people if they can possibly leave you a review as well. I think even on Google there's like this little LGBT flag that'll come up that says you're friendly, and that helps, and it really matters. I mean everybody looks at Google reviews, so if you do have that, it's definitely a big thing. And again, you just don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. That's the main thing. The last thing that I want to do is, go and think that I'm just getting my hair done and now I have to give somebody like a transgender 101 class because, they want to know all the information. Most people don't mind educating, but, maybe not on like the first time or two that you've done their hair. Wait till you, have established a relationship with the person, and then you can have those types of conversations. So I would just say the biggest thing is just treating us like we're normal people. That's the biggest thing, because at the end of the day, we don't want to be treated any differently. I'm here to get my hair done, lined up, colored, styled or whatever, so yeah.
Yeah. I tend to think that if I wouldn't discuss it with someone, a cis person, I'm using air quotes again, then why bring it up? Like, I'm not discussing a cis person's sex life with them. So, like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, what I'm saying?
And that's a good way to think about it, because that's kind of the first thing that we would say, when some people wonder, like, what's in a transgender person's pants? And it's like, what's in your girlfriend's pants? Are we talking about that? No.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's like, like you said, if you wouldn't have that conversation with a cis or biogender person, then it's probably not a conversation you need to have with a transgender person unless they first engaged in the conversation.
Absolutely. Okay. Is there anything in specific that we cis heteronormative people need to know? Anything that I haven't asked you that you would have liked to have answered?
No, I think that just the main thing is just, again, when you see someone trying to put an effort to identify as male, address them as male. When you see someone putting in an effort to, appear as female, then address them as female. Don't make it weird because you still see they have a little stubble, or they may be a little bit larger in the chest area or whatever, because as a transgender person, those are already things that we are focused on, right? So previously, when I go to the barber, they put the cape over you, and I have my chest, so I'm like, I'm freaking out on the inside, and so I don't need someone to make a comment about, oh, your chest is really large or whatever. I've had people do that, and it's weird and it's awkward, and it's called dysphoria, a strong disliking of your body, and so then you just never know. You can really drag that person down mentally, and you don't want to do that. So just be nice, just treat people good. It's literally that simple, and don't make it weird. That's all.
Absolutely. Are there any resources or websites that you can point us to where we can go to be educated so that that's not falling on our customers?
Yeah, so YouTube University, obviously, that's good for everybody. Facebook groups is a big one because they have, like, even the one that I'm a part of, it's not only for transgender people like myself, it's for allies. So, even if you are there to say, someone posts in there and says, hey, is there a free hair salon here? You can post and say, hey, I have a salon here, just because you are an ally and you're a part of that group. So not only are you answering that person's question, but other people will be able to see that information as well. So yeah, definitely Facebook is, my go-to. And, if you do the Google, I don't really know how that is set up to get reviews or whatever, but if you do that one, that's a large one that a lot of us check. And yeah, those are the three main ones. So Google, Facebook, and YouTube are the main go-tos. Maybe if you have a transgender person that may be an influencer or something like that maybe you follow them, or if you just know somebody like myself, that you do have that established relationship with, then don't be afraid to ask questions.
That established relationship is huge. I think, rather than just walking up to random people and asking them invasive questions.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's important, or at least as an ally, that I would like to say that if anyone goes to these Facebook groups, that it's important to stay out the way. Like, this is not your space. And so be quiet, and learn, and but don't be in there trying to take up space, arguing with people, or, being disrespectful.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely big too. We don't need that additional drama and all that type of stuff. So, let the group be for what it's for, and, but don't be afraid to, definitely engage and get your name out there as well, so that we do know that there are allies here within the city. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your transparency. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem.